Hey everybody, today I'm talking about my top 10 board games that lived up to the hype. So all of these games have reached some level of popularity or buzz. They might be very highly rated or considered classics, or it could even be something a bit more personal where people have consistently recommended these games to me because they know my personal tastes. And all of these games have been games that I've been late to the party on. These are games that I've played once they've already reached a certain peak or a certain level of buzz. And naturally, that makes it more difficult for the game to live up to those expectations. But in all of these examples, they've still exceeded, or at least lived up to those expectations because they are that good. So let's get started with some honourable mentions. So I have 3 honourable mentions I want to quickly talk through. The first of which is Smartphone Inc. I really like economic games, and this one was one that I always heard a lot of good things about, saying that it was so streamlined and clean, but it still offered that rich economic feel, and I think this one definitely did achieve that. I love the action system in this game, where you have these 2 basically pieces of card and you are overlapping things to show which actions you want to take on that turn. Maybe it's going to be producing phones, maybe it's going to be increasing your prices or lowering your prices or investing in new technology. But I just love how cleanly this game is broken down into these different phases. There's a good level of interaction to get the best technologies to sell to customers who want particular technologies to get more money, but you can alternatively undercut people and try to sell to those before the other people jump in there with their higher prices. So a really cool decision and interaction throughout this game, and I think it definitely did what it was set out to do. So I thought this was a very good game. That is Smartphone Inc. The second honourable mention is The Search for Planet X. So before playing Search for Planet X, I've heard obviously this game very highly touted amongst fans of deduction games, saying this was a brilliant deduction game. But to be honest, I was almost set in my ways and kind of sat in my comfort level playing games like Awkward Guess, which I thought was pretty much the pinnacle of deduction games. And I still think that is the case, but I do think that The Search for Planet X offers a different style of deduction, and it manages to pull it off very well. This logical puzzle of working out where all these different planets are or different astral bodies are. And it uses this great time track system where you keep taking actions until you catch up with the other players. And I've never seen that used in a deduction game before, and this one manages to merge those different ideas beautifully. Very brain burnery, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a very satisfying, juicy deduction puzzle. So that is The Search for Planet X. This one is excellent. And the final honourable mention I want to talk about is Spirit Island. Now this is a strange one because this game isn't exactly my personal tastes, but despite that, I think the game design itself is phenomenal. So this one, you are cooperatively working together as these spirits, and all these spirits have unique powers, they have strengths and weaknesses, but you can kind of cover each other and fill in those gaps by synergizing your powers with one another. And it uses this very cool system where some powers are resolved quickly and some are resolved slowly. And in between those powers, that is when all these kind of colonists are going to react and do their thing. But there's this constant struggle of pushing people around the map and fighting them off, just killing them outright, trying to scare them and things. But I just love how different everything is. I love how these powers synergize with each other. I can very meticulously map things out. But that is kind of the double-edged sword for me because I think it's a bit too brain burnery for me. And I try to map things out a bit too carefully rather than just going with my gut. And that can really draw the game to a halt. But if you do like that style of gameplay, it doesn't really get much better than Spirit Island. And I know a lot of people consider this the best game of all time. And you know what? I can't even really argue with that. Again, it's not really my tastes, but I still think it is a truly excellent design. That is Spirit Island. But let's get into the actual top 10 list. So at number 10, I have Cascadia. So this one is actually one of the most recent games on this list. This is pretty much brand new, but this one has really shot up through the kind of Board Game Geek rankings. It's got a lot of hype, a lot of people enjoying this one, and that's quite strange for a medium, lightweight style game. Pretty accessible as you're trying to build up this grid of these hex tiles with all these different terrain types on. You're trying to create the biggest kind of surface area of certain types to get more points. But whenever you take these tiles, you're drafting them, and they all come in pair with one of these animal tokens. And you're basically trying to not only create this grid, or this big map of these hexes, but also place these tokens on them to get additional points based on how these animals score. So for example, these elk cards or elk tokens might score by having elk in a straight row, or maybe the birds want to have line of sight with each other. So you're trying to make this most efficient puzzle as you can by laying things out and just scoring as many points as you can. But I just love how streamlined this game is. I love how simple and accessible it is. It looks nice, it plays pretty quickly, and there's next to no convolution in this game whatsoever. Just draft your tile and token, place it on your map, and try to do the best you can. And I think this game does really strike that great balance of being accessible but still having enough going on to be interesting, looking pretty, and those kind of games tend to do well. And generally when that happens, I kind of think, I can see why this is popular, but it's not quite for me. Maybe it's a bit too light. But this one, it just satisfies me enough to keep it getting to the table, and it's been a nice strong member of my collection since I've owned this one. I can really see myself introducing this to a lot of different people, and I really struggle to see anybody not enjoying this one because I think it is that nice. So that is Cascadia, my number 10. My number 9 is another recent one, and this one almost has a parallel to Cascadia, where it's that medium lightweight style game, but one that's become quite popular pretty quickly. This is Furnace. So Furnace, probably last year or throughout last year and into this year, it's got a nice level of buzz going towards it. It seems to be getting more and more popular, and it's another one of those games which offers good decisions, but it's still a pretty simple rule set. And this game has almost brought back almost a renaissance of this bidding mechanisms, which you don't really see too much in more recent designs. And it happens to be one of my favourite mechanisms in board gaming, full stop. But this one, it kind of brings that bidding mechanism to a whole new space that I haven't seen before, where each game you are allocated a bunch of these discs, I think it's 1 to 4, then you are allocating them out on these different cards that are available to all the players. The person who bids the highest on those cards is going to claim the card for their engine, which is going to act as almost a converter to convert cubes into other cubes and things. But also, anybody who's bid less than you on those cards takes another thing that's on those cards, like resources and things, equal to the amount of, or the bid that they put on it. So for example, if I bid 4 on it, on this card, I would win the card, but if somebody bid 3 on it, they would gain 3 times the resource on that card. So I love that dual conflict thing where you want to get a lot of resources from this card, but you might not want to bid too much because you might not want to win the card itself. So I thought that's a really cool mechanism that has a load of room to be explored further. Just, again, very intuitive, but just clever. And after that, you are kind of running this engine of cards, converting resources into other resources, getting points and things. But I love this variant in the game where you have to play things in a fixed order. So when you're running the machine, it has to go that way every single time and things are locked in place. It just adds a bit more tension to the game and makes your decisions that much more meaningful. But yeah, considering I have so many different bidding games, I thought this one might struggle and be lost amongst the pack. But I actually think it manages to hold its own very well. And that's on top of all the hype it had. And I think it's a very nice game that is rightly so being so popular. So that is Furnace at number 9. At number 8, we're going with something a lot more classic. This is going back to the 90s with Tigris and Euphrates. So Tigris and Euphrates is considered one of Dr. Reiner Knizia's best games. I was always kind of apprehensive to try this one because I thought it was going to be a bit too confrontational for me. I thought it was a bit too in your face. But when I played this one, I've really enjoyed it. And every subsequent play I've played this one, I've enjoyed it that much more. I think this one has layers, it has depth, and it's a very interesting design that hasn't really been replicated apart from its kind of sister game, Yellow and Yangtze. But this one is a tile placement game, as you are placing these different tiles, different colours on the board. But you are trying to collect 4 different types of points, all represented by the different colours corresponding to these tiles. But only your lowest pool of points out of all of those 4 at the end of the game is going to be your final score. So you need to very carefully balance all of them, and you can't neglect one of those colours. But this game is, again, it is pretty confrontational, as you can end up kind of connecting your cities with other cities and having a big blowout and kind of dedicating tiles to win these fights and things. But I think because this game isn't mean for the sake of it, and you are actually trying to do well and get more of these cubes when you are fighting with other players, it manages to hold its own, and it feels edgy, it feels vicious, but it still feels like you're doing these things for a reason, and it has this underlying strategy and Euro feel to it, which is quite unique. And I think this is a lovely design. I think it's very clever. I do have to be in the right mood to play it, but when I am in the mood to play it, I always enjoy this one, and I think it definitely deserves the hype, and I can see why it has held its own for so long. This one's been talked about and in the kind of board game zeitgeist for 25 years, which not many games do at all. So credence to Tigris and Euphrates for doing that, and an excellent game. At number 7, I have Seven Wonders Duel. So this is pretty much widely considered one of the best two-player games of all time. It's a drafting style game as you're trying to build up the civilization of cards. You're getting resources by building buildings. Some buildings are prerequisites for other buildings. Increasing your military by going up and down this track. I was apprehensive to try this game because I was lukewarm on the original Seven Wonders. I thought it was a good game, a more traditional drafting style game, but I wasn't blown over by it. But because this one was so highly revered and considered so great amongst so many fans of two-player games, I wanted to at least try this one, and I'm so glad I did, because I think this game is truly excellent. I love the draft in this game as you have this pyramid of cards where the cards are overlapping each other, but when you draft the ones from the edges, they are revealing ones underneath it, which adds so much stress to your turns because you might really want a card, but once you finish drafting your card, you might have revealed something better for your opponent to have. So you almost have this angst and agony of, do I take it? Am I allowed to give, or should I give my opponent that card? And those kind of games really shine for me. I think this game is smooth, it's fast, it offers so much strategy and different paths to go down and things to worry about in such a short time frame. And I can't really disagree with this one being considered one of the best two-player games of all time. I think it's great. I really do think it's great. And I was kind of going in expecting it to be overblown, being just being another hyped or overhyped game that isn't going to be right for me. But boy, I was wrong. This game is as excellent as people say. That is Seven Wonders Duel. At number 6, I have Bora Bora by Stefan Feld. So a lot of Stefan Feld fans really do consider this game one of his best. And I think a lot of the hype from this game came from the fact that this game is so hard to get because it's very limited. There's not many copies out there. It's not been reprinted in a long time. So it's rare. And normally when games become rare, they kind of get this aura around them where they're better than they usually are. But I don't think that is the case with Bora Bora. I think the game is excellent in its own right. I'm so happy I got this one in my collection this year because I really do feel like this is Stefan Feld doing what he does best. It really has all the best facets of his design, being a point salad style game, being restrictive through the use of dice, as in this one you are allocating dice to take actions. But the higher dice are generally good because you get more stronger actions, but the lower ones are great because every single time someone goes to an action that someone else has been to, they have to lower the pip value. So if you place a 6 somewhere, someone has to at least place a 5 there, and then a 4, and then a 3, and so on. So the low ones are great because they give you the flexibility to do what you want to do. But this game does have that kind of mini-game feel that a lot of my favourite Stefan Feld games have. You've got some very simple kind of area majority, you've got some simple set collection, and you've got a little bit of engine building as you can utilise these kind of native villagers to give you little boost actions. And it's just a great package. Again, all of Stefan Feld's greatest hits in a nice, succinct time frame. And I think this is fantastic and kind of a top-tier Feld game for me. And I think it definitely deserves the praise that Stefan Feld fans put upon this one. It is excellent. That is Bora Bora at number 6. At number 5, I have Brass Birmingham by Martin Wallace. So this is widely considered to be one of the best, if not the best, economic style board game of all time. And it's almost considered a lifestyle game to a lot of people where this is the only game people will play because it has that much to offer, that much depth and that much nuance. Now, while I don't disagree with that, I was concerned that this would require me to play it again and again and again, and normally that kind of game doesn't suit me because I like variety. I like to play lots of different things. But I'm very pleasantly surprised to see that this is a game that you can quite happily dip in and out of. It's not terribly complex, but it's different. And I love the way that the resources work in this game because you not only have to build up this infrastructure of buildings and canals and trains and things in your network, but I like the way you can utilise your resources and utilise other people's resources as well. When you build things or when you shift things around, you can use resources that other people have placed. But bearing in mind that when you do that, you might flip their buildings over and start generating them a points engine. And I also love games that offer supply and demand, And this game does that very well through this coal and iron resource, where you can connect things up and end up kind of refilling the stores of coal back up and getting points for money for doing so. And money in this game is very tight. I just think this game is very well done. It's a game I do have to be in the right mood to play, because you are kind of getting into this new level of interaction, and it is quite sophisticated gameplay, and you need to be kind of alert to get the most out of it. But I do think it definitely warrants the praise it's done. It's a game that's going to reward you for exploring it more, and if you are playing with the same people again and again, you're going to really raise each other's game and start to understand things about this game that weren't quite first apparent. So I think this game is a wonderful design. It certainly deserves the praise it's received over the years, and it is considered one of the best board games of all time, and it's another example where I can't really dispute that. So yeah, Brass Birmingham, wonderful, and certainly lived up to the hype. At number 4, I have Underwater Cities. This game really did blow up a few years ago. A lot of people really loving this one. This engine builder where you have a bunch of cars being built in front of you, which let you kind of improve on previous actions or do things that other people can't do, or the kind of incentive of making yourself more efficient and gaining more and more points. I was slightly concerned about this one because I thought it was going to be bloated. I thought it was going to be convoluted, and just looking at the pictures and things, it wasn't really my style of aesthetic. I tend to like the more kind of beige Euro style look. This one is a bit more up to date and it's a bit more futuristic, which is normally a bit of a deterrent for me. But when I got this one to the table, there was a lot of things I loved about it. Number one, I love this idea of worker placement, but worker placement paired with a card. So you basically have 3 different colours of actions you can take. You're placing your worker down, getting the corresponding action, but you also, if you play a matching coloured card with it, you also get the bonus from that card as well. And these cards do loads of different things. It could just be instant resources and things. It could be, again, building an engine and stuff, making yourself more efficient, making yourself faster and better. But the way this game develops, you really do kind of just increase your power and how much you can do with each turn drastically. The game changes so much from start to finish. And the level of satisfaction you get from this is almost unparalleled, as you really do feel that you achieve a lot. So yeah, I was concerned about all those things. I thought it was going to be a bit too sprawling, a bit too much going on, but my concerns were completely relieved once I played this one. I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of the best engine builder games of all time, and I think it's great. Yeah, this one is very highly ranked on Board Game Geek. A lot of people speak highly of it. It has some competition with some other games like Terraforming Mars. And I think this game is sublime. Brilliant game, and certainly deserve it of the hype. That is Underwater Cities. At number 3, I have another game that's considered a classic. This is Terra Mystica. So Terra Mystica is a pretty involved engine building style game as you're trying to put these buildings down on this map and terraform the land as you go. As you put more buildings down, you are increasing an engine by getting points and getting money and things, or getting these priests which let you climb tracks and things. So lots of kind of synergies going on in this game. This game is another one of those ones that's almost has a built-in fan base where people play this again and again and probably play it to a very high level, which was another factor that intimidated me about this one. I thought, if I'm going to play this game with people who've played it before, they're just going to absolutely wipe the floor with me. I'll have no chance of winning. But if you play this game with people who are at the same level with you, then I don't see why anybody can't enjoy this game. It's actually not too complex at all. I thought it was going to be again, fiddly. I thought it was going to have lots of rules exceptions, and little things that you need to remember. And I was, again, pleasantly surprised to find out that wasn't the case. It's actually pretty simple. Now, there are a few little things that are, do take it to that kind of heavyweight Euro bracket, but I still think it is fairly intuitive how it works. As you're basically just trying to put these buildings down on the map, trying to unlock income as you do so, trying to exploit your unique race's power, because all these different powers or races you play with each game have their own strengths and weaknesses. Climb tracks and things, a lot of things you'd expect from Euros, but this does have a slightly different feel to it. The map does get quite tight as you go on, and you need to very carefully plan things, because once you upgrade buildings, the actual buildings you replace come back onto your player board, which can actually come to bite you in the ass if you don't map that out quite carefully. But I do think the game is very well designed. I know I can see why it is considered one of the best games ever. And I think this game, out of all of these, probably is the most love it or hate it style games. You're either going to love the crunchiness of it or the all hate the kind of dryness and the almost transparency of things, because you can very carefully plan things out to a T, and that can almost introduce a level of analysis paralysis if you do have that slower type of player. But I don't see that as a fault for the game. I think the gameplay is so strong. I think it's a brilliant Euro, and it deserves its almost classic and legendary status amongst board gaming. So that is Terra Mystica at number 3. At number 2, I have Ark Nova. So I can't really recall a game reaching a level of popularity or hysteria or buzz quite like Ark Nova has, at least in modern memory. So this one is a pretty involved Euro, as you're trying to build up a zoo from scratch, really. You're building the enclosures, you're getting the animals in. You are trying to create partnerships with all the different continents to get animals in at a better rate. You're trying to get money, of course, to make new investments and things. This game has so much going on, and it has a brilliant system as you are using these action cards. But the longer you neglect using these action cards again, the stronger version you get of them. And once you use them, they're going to go back to the bottom of the queue and be ready to charge it up again. I love that system. Very clean, very elegant. But I love the variety of this game. This game has so many things you can do. Maybe you want to go for African animals this time. Maybe you want to go for primates. Maybe you want to go for reptiles. And they all work in different ways and synergize with each other. And it's just brilliant, the different things you'll find and discover with every single game of Ark Nova. Now, I mentioned earlier, this game does have a lot going on in it. There is a lot you need to manage, a lot you need to juggle. But I do love the way it is embedded down into that core system of using that card, and I'm just doing what it says on the card and charging it up again. I think that's brilliantly done, and it stops you from keep spamming the same action time and time again, and makes you think outside the box and diversify a bit. But I just think this game is a joy to play. It is pretty long, it is pretty involved, and I think maybe that is going to send some people down the wrong track, because it does look so inviting, with these really cute, brilliant animals on the cover and stuff. But I do think if you are into your engine building style games, you like your slightly heavier Euros, you want a nice inviting theme, or maybe you want to try even bring someone into playing more complex involved games, Ark Nova could be the game to do that with, because it's not as bad as it looks, and it is surprisingly intuitive, and I think the gameplay is so much fun. And this game, I was just expecting it to fall flat on its face because it was so popular, and it is still immensely popular. And I'm so happy to say this one is as good as people say it is. It is excellent, excellent, excellent. Top tier game, and probably one of the best games of last year. That is Ark Nova, a brilliant design, one well worthy of all the hype, believe it or not, that it has received. That is Ark Nova. And finally, at number 1, I have Keyflower. So Keyflower is widely regarded as one of the best Euro board games of all time. I think it's one of those games that almost flies under the radar. You don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but the people who love it really love it. But the reason this is number 1 for me is because personally, I've had a lot of people say to me, Dan, you need to play this game. I see the games you have in your collection. I promise you, you will love Keyflower. And that for me has always given me a bit of hesitation, because I think, this game is destined to fail. I have so many people saying I love it, and there's no way that this game can live up to those expectations. But it did live up to those expectations, and it completely superseded those expectations, because this game is utterly brilliant. This is a worker placement and bidding style game, as you are using these actions on these tiles to get resources and things and convert them into points. But you can also bid on these tiles to claim into your own personal town, and build up a little bit of a network, really, to shift resources around and things. But I love this idea of not only using these workers to activate the tiles, but to bid on them as well. And you don't even have your own personal colour of worker. You actually all share workers amongst you. But if somebody has used a particular colour on a tile, that means all the other people have to use it as well. So say I bid on a specific tile with 1 blue worker, then anybody else has to outbid me with, say, 2 blue workers or 3 blue workers, and they can't use their other colours. And that, for me, I've never seen that used before. I've never seen anybody else try to replicate that or even improve upon it. Not like it could really be improved upon. But it's quite interesting to see how this game has remained unique after all these years. It's surprisingly easy to teach, but it has a lot of strategy, loads of paths to victory. The interaction in this game is unbelievable because you can actually use other people's tiles that they built previously, but you're going to have to give them workers for doing so. And that constant economy and back and forth of the resources is so engaging, and I love it, love it, love it. So yeah, this game has quickly become one of my favourite games of all time. I think it is that good, and this is never going anywhere. I think it is utterly brilliant, and I would recommend this one to anybody. If you're a fan of worker placement, if you're a fan of mid-weight Euros or bidding, this game, you're just destined to love it. It is that good. So that is Keyflower at number 1. So there we go, those are the top 10 games that have lived up to the hype for me personally. Now I will say this is the second edition of this video that I've done, and I have done one previously where I talked about another 10 games, so be sure to check out that video. And be sure to subscribe, hit like and comment if you did enjoy the video, of course. And I'd also be really interested to know what games have lived up to the hype for you personally. I think that's a really quite an interesting discussion. I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye now.